Right, good evening everybody. The reason that Virgin was well placed to look at commercialisation of space, Virgin is not a single company. As many of you know who either work with Virgin brands or those from start who worked on Virgin brands, Virgin is a branded venture capital organisation. It invests in businesses, and uniquely, unlike say Warren Buffett with Berkshire Hathaway or Dell Ventures or some of the other sort of venture capital type organisational structures, this is one where the brand crosses those structures and is policed and managed by Virgin Group. And the fascinating thing about this particular opportunity was it actually fitted quite neatly with a lot of things that we were doing back in the early part of the last decade. There was a realisation that space was essential to the future of mankind, and that realisation is beginning to come around. When you see the media these days, space is back on the agenda. It's back almost on the front page. And sometimes people ask why. Why are humans wanting to go into space? What do we need to do in space if we can't do on the planet Earth? And the fact is that every part of the debate we're going back to, from peak oil, energy security, the climate change issue, all of it is now going to be determined by the information we get from space. So all of those things, plus the fact we now have the technology to produce all of our solar power in space, with the technology to put server farms in space, the only thing we lack is efficient space launch systems. When we worked on the very original business plan for this business, we were looking at this little thing that had just won the X Prize, and Virgin Group directors in the investment committee were very keen for us to rebuild this and get it into service by 2009. But we realised that A, we didn't like the economics of that too much, and B, it was funny, if we had customers, would they like getting into that tiny little thing, or would they like something slightly different? Before the X Prize flights, we announced we'd formed Virgin Galactic. We announced we had a website up and running to take bookings. We announced that we needed $10 million in deposits to prove the business plan to go ahead and construct a vehicle that would take you into space in the future. Now that was great because it allowed us to build this beautiful thing here, what we call Spaceship 2 and White Knight 2. And we designed the whole system from the start to be the most efficient aviation system ever built. So that's the most efficient, big, wide-winged, multi-engine jet ever developed. It's entirely carbon composite, right down to its control cables. So, we've ended up with a working system. And when I say working, obviously the prototype worked, the White Knight 2 works, the rocket motor's working now. We're about to start testing the spaceship, but we're very, very confident in it. And this is the experience you'll get as a customer. Instead of launching from the ground in those incredibly dangerous, expensive, environmentally unfriendly rockets, you're carried by the White Knight 2 to 52,000 feet. You're dropped, you're fired into space. Within seconds you've broken the sound barrier. Within 30 seconds you're doing 3,000 miles an hour. You've got 3.5 G of gravity on you. You go up into space, you hear the roar of the rocket motor, you're breaking through the atmosphere, suddenly the silence of space, you can leave your seat, you're weightless. The whole experience from the ground to the ground is 2.5 hours. And you get of that about 15 minutes in space. And you get quite a lot longer in near space. So you start off your trip at the height that Concorde used to fly. So you're already seeing the curvature of the Earth. And you end your trip at about 67,000 feet, which is the height that U2 flies at. I don't know if any of you saw that James May programme about going to the moon and the view he got out of the U2. Well, you'll get that view from your glide back for a long time. You'll be higher than a U2, then you'll be at the height of a U2, then you'll glide down, you'll get to the Concorde height. But your actual space experience will be about 15 minutes in total. We are treating this as a safety-first operation. And so safety has been built into every aspect of the thinking of this whole system from start to finish, which is why it's undertaken one of the biggest test flight programs in history. And this is the spaceport. Now the spaceport is fascinating itself in that you imagine an almost impossible project from the beginning, but the worst part of the project was trying to find a home for it. And along comes the state of New Mexico, and it has a lot of financing left over from the days of the nuclear weapons testing there, the mineral extraction there. It has a development fund for New Mexico, and they want to build a spaceport, but they've never had a customer. We become the customer, we sign up a 20-year deal to lease the facility, and they start building it. And to show the leap of faith they've taken, with no guarantees from us that we'd make the thing work, they've begun construction. The runway will be finished in October, the spaceport will be finished early next year, it's begun construction now. And they've also allowed one of the greatest architectural firms in the world, Foster & Partners, or Foster & Associates as they're now called. Norman Foster's company, have designed the world's first aerospace facility that's entirely carbon neutral. Thank you very much for your time.